Well, hello everyone and welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. Today we'll be talking money, how I manage my money. A lot of people, we have this daily conversation and dealing with pain, but one of the biggest pain people don't realize that causes them trouble, causes them anxiety, depression, is your money issue. Not knowing how to deal with your money, not knowing how to progress. You're making money, but it still feels like you are constantly broke because you're probably doing the wrong things. You're probably overspending more than you're making. Our guest today, Lewis Harding, bought his first house at the tender age of 22. And guess what? He wasn't making that much money, but he just knew what the right things to do to make sure he had enough to buy a house. Lewis Harding talks about managing money. What are the best ways to manage your money so that you could keep building the future you've always dreamed of? We'll be talking about spending, saving, and investing money to meet your goals to achieve the dream and lifestyle you want. As a 22-year-old trainee accountant, he did just this, he did just that. So why can't you achieve the dreams you want? But it takes consistency, focus, and discipline. And also a little bit of luck. Let's meet our guest, Lewis Harding, as he talks about buying his first home at the tender age of 22, about investments, and about where should we be investing our money, what kind of stocks, and how do we get started. If you're a young person who's listening to this conversation, even people who have not done it before, but wanting to get started, listen to the conversation. Meet our guest, Lewis Harding. Well, hello everyone and welcome to Painless Universal conversation again with myself and Welsh. Today's topic is super exciting. I think Lewis here will be telling us so much we don't know about how you could buy a house at a tender age of 22. That is super amazing. Lewis, how are you?
I'm great, thanks, Anne. Thank you very much for having me on today. Can't wait to have a good chat with you.
Honestly, I'm super excited because in times like this, and especially things you've done, you did them at a very crucial stage, like the pandemic. People were not wanting to spend. People were so nervous, and there you are with your girlfriend buying a house. We'll get into all of that and how you got in, how you decided that this was the right thing to do at the tender age of 22. I always start my question with a very simple way of introducing yourself is, who is Lewis?
So who is Lewis? I'm Lewis Harding. I'm 23 years old and I live in a village near Leeds with my girlfriend, about 15 miles from Leeds. By day, I'm an accountant, so I'm currently trained to be a chartered accountant at a firm based in York and Leeds. And then in my own time, I have a big passion for all things investing, investing in the stock market, investing in property, and amongst other things as well. So yeah, that's a brief summary of me.
That's really interesting. You're an accountant. I was reading your story. You said you started accounting, but you didn't go the normal route, which normally, because I did accounting in university, and I took the course accounting and finance. Then I went on to do my master's in investment management. But I read your one. You started off, you were doing your A levels, and you enjoyed it. You noticed you love maths a lot, but you didn't go the other route, which I did, was going to university. Why did you decide not to go the university route, but rather go through the apprenticeship direction?
Yeah, so when I was doing my A levels, I just had a gut feeling, to be honest, that university wasn't going to be right for me. I was a bit of a home bird. I liked living at home, enjoyed staying around with my friends, and I was looking at different career options, and the apprenticeship route just suited me down to the earth. So yeah, at 18, after my A levels, I went straight to work. I worked at an accounting firm based in Hull. So yeah, it was just the right option for me when I was thinking about it at 18. I did apply for university and I did get a few places, but ultimately, I just thought it was the best decision for me going down the apprenticeship route. And accountancy is one of those industries which you can do that. There's quite a few routes into different roles in accountancy.
Did you always, because I'm looking back at my time and I'm thinking, I didn't think about the apprenticeship route. Did someone tell you that this could be a great option? All I thought in my mind was just I had to just go to university and get my accounting degree, and probably from there you do the ACCA, and then you become a chartered accountant. Who guided you to know probably this is what's the right way for you?
Yeah, so in terms of how I got the idea, I was pretty similar to you. It was always like, I'm going to go to university, but it was actually my A-level accounting class that we had some people from some accounting firms come into the class and said, look, you can do the AAT qualification. There's 3 levels to that, level 2, 3 and 4, and you can do them qualifications whilst working. And then once you've got your final AAT qualification, you can better go on to do your ACCA studies. So that was kind of the main reason, because otherwise, if I wasn't doing accountancy, I would have probably just gone to university and then done whatever I did. But because we had that option, I was able to do that.
Yeah, that's a marvelous option, because you then did it. Then what was different between you and I is that you gained experience. You were working, and as much as you study, you also gained this crucial high level experience, and that's something you can't put money to it. People always say, okay, you should go to university, but one thing people always forget to tell us is that real life practical experience is very much different from what you learn in class. So when you got this apprenticeship role and you started this thing, was it very difficult for you to balance the studying and doing the work itself?
100%, yeah. So I remember I started in August 2016. I remember the first 6 months of my, being in the job, it was a massive, massive culture shock. I went in as an 18-year-old, just, people like at 18 bouncing off the walls, going out all the time and stuff. But it really matured me. That first 6 months I remember very, very well. It took a lot of getting used to, especially the early morning, for proper routine, early mornings, late finishes. It took a lot of getting used to, and it definitely made me grow up in some ways. It just made me mature more, and I think that's one thing it does do in some ways as well, the apprenticeship route, because you go into the working environment with adults, so you do generally mature more, and as you get more experience, you see the bigger picture as well.
The pandemic, it did cause a lot of pain to so many people. People were struggling with the pandemic, not knowing what to do. But in your case, you said the pandemic, this social restriction boost your savings. How did that do that for you? What did you do differently from every one of us?
So pandemic, let's think about last year, 2020. I was still living at home. So I moved in, me and my girlfriend bought a house in June 2020. So, when the pandemic was happening, I was living at home. And I remember for the first 2 months, especially, where no one was doing anything at all. The furthest I went was going to Lidl to do the shopping for my mum and dad. So literally, I didn't spend too much really, and I just put it towards my savings, whether that was some stock market investments and towards money towards moving out into like a savings spot for my house. So basically, spending, whether it was going out for meals or buying clothes and stuff, it just kind of stopped because there was no good reason to. So I just ended up saving / investing my money.
Gosh, I'm really proud of you, and I really hope that anyone listening today would literally understand the value of saving, because not only did you start saving, you and your girlfriend decided that, okay, we've saved enough, it's now time to buy a house. Tell me about that critical decision, because buying a house is not something you just make randomly, something you must have planned. Tell me how you got yourself to decide this is the right time to do it.
Yes, fantastic question. So pre-pandemic, we were thinking, all right, it's going to be like another 12 months or 18 months. It would have been around this time right now. However, we had the pandemic, and then it came to June, July time, and that's when things were opening for the first time. And we just thought to ourselves, we thought we hadn't seen each other properly for like 2 or 3 months. And that was kind of the real trigger moment to let's just go for it. We had enough savings, we had enough deposit in our lifetime ISAs, plus other savings to furnish the house and everything. So we thought, yeah, let's just go for it. And the right opportunity came up. The house I'm in now came up in July. We were actually on holiday in Cornwall at the time when we got the offer accepted on the house, which was lovely. So yeah, I think the pandemic just it was a proper trigger moment. We had savings, we had the deposit, and we were like, it was just the real trigger moment, and we just went for it. We just thought, let's do it. Even during the pandemic times, you might think well, a lot of people said, oh, what are you doing? You must be a bit crazy doing that. But we thought it's the right thing for us. And when we did put the offer in, it's when the mortgage lenders were allowing people to, they were opening up again, and the lenders were more happy to lend to you. So it worked out really well, really.
I read an article where you talk about how, in this article, how I manage my money. And one of the key thing that really stopped me is that you were open about your balance sheet. You were saying, okay, this is how much I make, and this is how much I spend, this is how much I do this, and this is my outgoings, and this is what I put towards this thing. How difficult, when I look at those balance, your numbers, how difficult is it being disciplined? I think it's, you look at lots of young people today, they are thinking about their budget consists of going out to the park, going to buy some clothes, going to compete with their peer. But when you look at yours, you don't even leave room for so much fun. You just really are consistent. How difficult is it to be disciplined?
Yeah, so before moving out, it was relatively easy. I paid 40 quid a week to my mum for board, so 160 quid a month, just living at home, which was obviously fantastic. Then everything else, it was relatively easy because that's all remained really outgoing apart from my mobile phone. So now I'm in my house with my girlfriend, suddenly you've got monthly bills, it's a hell of a lot more, and it's a bit tighter. So I think, literally I've just got a spreadsheet, and we share the bills proportionate to our income, and then everything else after that, I'm either saving or using it as fun money or investing. And yeah, it is. You do have to be disciplined because you've got to remember that there's not an endless pot of money, and the only thing you can do is either cut what you're spending or increase what you're earning. So that's kind of something I'm doing at the moment. I'm trying to increase my earnings, to make things easier. And it can mean you do have that extra few hundred quid to use every month to go for meals or go out for drinks and stuff.
Yes. And you're very, very, very disciplined when it comes to investments. And it's something that you hear a lot in the United States. It's very more common over there. And I think we do it here, but it's not easy to get started or even know what process is. Your investment strategy, how did you know this is the direction from being working as an accountant? Because I think what fascinates you is very similar to what I did. I started off as an accountant. I did my first degree in accounting and finance. Then I went on to do my master's investment management, and I found that really, really fascinating. And it's that, Lewis, I must say they're very different. Accounting and finance is really balancing the book, making sure you have the right money, making sure everything is in order. Investment is now a small proportion of that. Of you've saved this money, now you want this amount of money to go somewhere, to be invested somewhere. When did you decide that this is something you wanted to look into?
So I first got interested in investing, in the stock market was at the end of 2017. There was some hyped up Canadian stocks, which they were Canadian marijuana companies, and I was listening to some podcasts, not even investing related, and people were talking about, these companies, it's the next big thing. and I had an interest in the stock market. I didn't know ins and outs of it. And I started researching. I really decided to buy some. Luckily, I made some good money because it was on the run up when California were legalizing marijuana. So yeah, the stock prices went really high, and I managed to make some money. But then I made money. Then I actually had to sell my shares to buy my second car. Anyway, after that, I realised it was a bad decision doing that because, I just realised it was just pure luck. It was not investing. It was more likely gambling, what I really did. But I sat down, I realised that. And then from there, I just fully self-educated myself. I read all the main investment books, starting with Rich Dad Poor Dad, all the books of Warren Buffett, Jack Bogle's little book of Common Sense Investing, so many different books, Peter Lynch's books, literally all the investing books I've read or listened to on Audible. And then I've also used podcasts as well as YouTube videos to self-educate myself. And then when I sold them shares, I didn't actually invest in shares for another 2 years, because I just sat down and I was saving up, but I was just educating myself because I wanted to do it the right way. And essentially after that, where I am today is I've now educated myself in different strategies, and I'm just investing based on what I think is going to work, which is, it's all on my website, the way I invest. So it's mostly stock in the stock market, individual stocks, ETFs, so like emerging markets. But I've also got some alternative investments, some unlisted investments through equity crowdfunding. And then I've got a little holding of Bitcoin as well. So it's very varied and stuff, but it is all well thought out based on what I've learned myself.
All by teaching yourself how to go about it. Wow.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'll taught it all myself. And I'm always open for learning more. Like, I love listening to people who are experienced in investing. What I try to do is try to be a knowledge sponge. That's the way I see it. Just try to absorb as much knowledge as I can, because I actually really like talking to people with different opinions to myself, because it means you get a really good balanced argument. And that's something I've been trying to do recently, trying to talk to people who have a different opinion to me on different, not just invest in different subjects as well. So I feel like that helps.
Someone looking to invest in companies, what would be something you would tell them to look out for? Is it like a big company like Coca-Cola, or do you go for something smaller, or do you go for new companies that are just like Deliveroo, just going in the market? What do you tell? What are your kind of advice when people are looking to invest in companies?
Yeah, so from my own experience, I personally only really invest in big blue chip companies. So I'd say generally for bigger companies like your Coca-Colas, your Apples, your Amazons, them type of companies. So your £1 billion companies or $1 billion companies. I actually have 4 pillars for stock investing. So my first pillar is a company has to be profitable, it has to have high returns on capital, and it has to do it with low leverage. Number 2 is the management have to have equal amounts of talent and integrity, so they have the best interest of the company and they're also good at what they do. Then number 3 is they have room to grow, acquisitions and room to grow. So I look at revenue growth, profit growth, cash flow growth. Then I look at stuff like acquisitions, dividends, and share buybacks. And then the last one is number 4, which is the most important: buy at a fair price. And I determine this by using discounted free cash flow valuation. And also use the PE ratio and price to free cash flow as like a base thing. So yeah, they're the 4 pillars. So I use them 4 pillars, as well as mainly invest in bigger companies. So that's kind of the process.
What about salary-wise? If for example, someone making 3,000, for example, what percent of the salary do you normally say to them that you should put towards investing? Because obviously you can't, so people might want to put 50%, which might not be feasible, but what would you typically allocate for that?
Yeah, so I think 15 to 20% is a reasonable figure. I think 15, I generally do it from net salary, because I think it makes it easier to work out, because it's what's getting physically paid into your bank account. I've been researching this a little bit as well. I've been doing 15%. Since living in the house, 15% has been a reasonable figure, because at the end of the day, you want to be investing, but you don't want to want it to take over your life, because you got to live, you've got to enjoy the here and now as well. Make sure you're doing it, but don't go overboard, and make sure you do have a bit of fun as well.
Lewis, a quick question here. I saw you did an article called "The Rated Field Retail." I don't know if you know about this. The frenzy becoming a big deal over here. I'm not quite sure what this is because I'm the traditional investor. I do it the traditional way. But I think people are trying to move it to make it more appealing to younger people to get them more invested like they do in America. Could you explain to me what all of this means and help me enlighten me a bit? Because I'm just a traditional investor who do it you call your bank up and the bank will sort things out for you, tell you where your stock is. But you young guys are coming up with more innovative ways. So almost like you're moving away from the games and now taking this, okay, let's move away from these. Let's play around this way. Could you explain what this means?
Are you referring to the GameStop? What happened with GameStop back in February?
I think it's the Reddit, RE.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, what is this?
So essentially, at the end of January, early February of 2021, there was a few stocks which went really high due to a short squeeze. I think the companies were GameStop, AMC, Nokia, and there was a few others as well. Essentially what happened was there were some big hedge funds which were shorting these companies, so predicting that the share prices were going to go down. But what happened was Reddit is essentially an online forum, and on one of the forums there's 4 million people who follow these investing people, or people just contribute to it. And what happened was this forum, they basically said, everyone start buying this stock. So essentially what happened was, let's say GameStop, these people on this forum were buying this stock, and it pushed the price up. And because the price went up, it priced out for shorts, because if someone's shorting a company and it rises, they have unlimited losses, essentially. So the people who were shorting, they had to buy back the stock, and it just went really, really high, like ridiculously high. And that's essentially what happened due to our situation. Honestly, crazy situation. I didn't partake in it. I made some commentary on it, explaining how crazy it was. But yeah, it just shows the power of the internet and what can happen, especially with smaller companies. Because GameStop was, I think it was a 500 million market cap, which in the grand scheme of things isn't the biggest amount of money in terms of the size of a company. And I think at the peak it got to 20 billion. So it just shows how much inflows of cash can cause a stock price to go up. Yeah, that's a very brief summary, but hopefully that does kind of make sense.
That makes sense, because I think a lot of young people around that I was talking to, saying I was having this conversation with yourself, wanted to understand what that was all about and why that happened, and why it really brought the spike. But would you say you're seeing more trends towards more younger people investing in the UK? And if someone who's young says, okay, I want to go the direction you've taken, what advice would you give them to really follow your footprint?
Yeah, no, fantastic question. So I always think it's fantastic that younger people want to get investing, and I think more and more younger people are wanting to. I think it's more accessible nowadays. So I use an app called Free Trade. Essentially, it's commission-free investing. So when we buy shares, we don't pay any commission. The only time we pay fees is I think I pay £3 a month for my ISA, and I pay like a small foreign exchange fee when I buy American shares. So it's really accessible, and there's multiple platforms you can do this with. And you can invest with smaller sums of money. I think what I would say is get yourself educated, whether it's, maybe not to the extremes what I did, but there's a few books in particular I would definitely read. Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, the Little Common Book of Investing by Jack Bogle, the founder of Vanguard. It's another fantastic book. Yeah, I'd just say, get some investing books or / audio books, which I personally prefer audiobooks. I can do things whilst listening. Watch YouTube videos on the subject, and just ask people questions. Send me an email if you'd like to. I can send you some resources. like I said, just get yourself educated, understand what you're going to be invested in, and then go from there.
For a beginner, would you go for stock or for this crypto market, the cryptocurrency and all that? Where would you tell a beginner to start off with?
Yeah, so if I was starting out, or if someone's starting out, I would say look at ETFs or index funds. So ETFs, it's essentially a product where you are buying a share of the ETF, but that ETF owns thousands of stocks. So when you're buying that, you are naturally diversified. So let's say the S&P 500, you'll buy a share of that ETF, and you'll own the full American stock market. What I do, or what I prefer, is to own the full world stock market through the FTSE All World index. And I think for people starting out, it's a great way, even if you just wanted to put £50 a month into your investing to get started, go for an index fund to start with, because it's a great way to get used to how it feels saving, saving/investing each month, and then you can learn more about investing in the stock market from there.
So what's your 5 years plan? I mean, you've figured this whole thing out, you understand the market, you understand saving, and you've bought a house at its tender age of 22. You're very disciplined with when you manage money. Where do you see 5 years coming? What do you think you'll be doing, and how do you think you enhance what you currently are doing?
Yeah, so my plan at the moment, I think I've got everything in place investment wise. So what I need to do now, in my opinion, is increase my earnings so I can do it quicker, or essentially, so doing my chartered accountancy exams, I will increase my earnings that way. I'm also looking to invest in property. This is something my parents do. They have a property portfolio, so I've got someone to hold my hand experience wise, with that type of investment. So looking to invest in property. I'm hoping that my YouTube channel and my Lewis Harding Invest brand can hopefully bring me some income in the future. Just got to keep consistent with it. But I'm looking at different business ideas as well, like side hustles. But at the moment, my Lewis Harding Invest is my main side hustle. So doing that alongside increasing my earnings, I should hopefully be able to invest more, invest quicker, and that's kind of my plan. My plan now is to just increase my earnings and keep going.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you just said, because it's very true. As much as you could work, but if the earnings, it gets to a point in time, because whether we like it or not, our lifestyles tend to change. And probably, if you and your girlfriend decides to get married, and all that adds to the budget if you decide to have kids. So the best way forward now is almost about increasing earnings to move that forward. But I really appreciate your time. 2021 is looking bright with the vaccination. What would be your final message to anyone young looking to do something out of the ordinary, like you just did, bought a house, but don't have as much income, just has an okay income? What would be the key thing in their budget, when you do your budget, your household budget? What would be the key message you would give to that person to say to them, if you really want to do this, this is one thing you need to do?
I think the simplest thing I could say from there would be, it's something my dad said to me years ago: make sure you're not spending more than you earn. A pretty simple message. Make sure, however much you do earn, make sure you are, even if it's, make sure you're not going over that. Don't get yourself into debt or bad credit card debt. Even if you're not earning so much, just make sure you're not spending more than you earn.
Oh, wow, that is a perfect thing. Thank you so much, Lewis Harding, for your time and for your honest opinion about what any young person should be doing to help himself to build up and manage his funds much better. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. I appreciate it.
Thank you.